Hey guys, it's Tiffany of Tough Angel Books, and for this podcast, I'm going to be talking about the Pottermore Presents eBooks that were released in September of 2016. These three ebooks were written by J.K. Rowling, and I absolutely loved reading these. I just finished reading the third one the other day, and I cannot wait to talk about these. I'm not going to go into spoilers. I am going to give you my general rating and review of each of these ebooks. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not a huge ebook fan. I'm not a huge ebook reader. I love reading. I'm okay with the convenience of ebooks, but if I can read a physical copy of the book, that trumps everything. I like audiobooks because I can do stuff as well, but ebooks are definitely nice because I can read them at night on my tablet. So to start this off, I am going to be reviewing and talking about short stories from Hogwarts of Power, Politics, and Pesky Poltergeists. Honestly, this book was a 5 out of 5 for me. I loved reading this book. I loved learning more about the characters and just understanding a bit more of the entire wizarding world. This was the first Hogwarts, this was the first Hogwarts short stories that I read. And I read it a few months ago, and I still remember everything I enjoyed about it. And so, like I said, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but I am going to talk generally about it. So in this ebook, you learn more about Dolores Umbridge, the Ministers for Magic, and Azkaban, Horace Slughorn, Professor Quill, and a pesky poltergeist. Now, the chapter actually says Professor Quill's first name. I have no idea how to pronounce that first name. It starts with a Q, but I don't know how to pronounce it. So, as I told you, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This was a really enjoyable read. The only thing is, I didn't know I could read a book and hate a character more. Anyone who is even slightly involved in the wizarding world and has seen The Order of the Phoenix or read Order of the Phoenix knows who Dolores Umbridge is and knows that she is probably the most hated character of all time. Like, everyone kind of hated Voldemort, but he's kind of the villain you're supposed to hate, and then you have Dolores Umbridge, who everyone ended up hating more than Voldemort. Which, if you didn't think that was possible, you would be proven wrong. Because it was definitely possible, and it was insane, the hatred that Dolores Umbridge got when everyone found out who she was. But this gives you kind of a backstory and a bit more understanding of how she got where she is, and it still doesn't excuse anything she's done, but it definitely gives you a bit more background information on her. You also learn about all of the former ministers for magic and their timelines and that, and who would be the current minister for magic according to the book timeline. And that's actually really cool to learn about. You kind of learn a little bit of history about the Ministry for Magic. Well, Ministry of Magic. Why did I say for magic? You learn a bit more about the Ministry of Magic by learning about the Ministers for Magic. You also learn about Azkaban and kind of the history of it, and which is just really cool because you learn about pretty much the hub of the part of the wizarding world that we learn about in 7 books. And then you learn about one of the most well-known prisons in the wizarding world. And that was actually pretty cool to learn about. You also learn more about Horace Slughorn, who is the potions master in Half-Blood Prince. And it gives you, it kind of confuses you as to, well, it doesn't really confuse you. It gives you more backstory to him, but it also kind of helps you understand why he was so hesitant in both the books and the movies about information and details and stuff like that. Then you also learn about Professor Quill, who is the original Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, according to the books anyway. He's the first Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher that we meet, and also the first person Harry has to actually battle because he is host to Voldemort. And learning about him, learning how much he was exploring, how much he was discovering and understanding, you kind of feel sorry for him that he became the host of one of the most evil beings to exist. And it's kind of sad, but you learn about him, so that's an upside. And then you learn about a few of the pesky poltergeists that haunt Hogwarts, like the Bloody Baron and Sir Nicholas. You learn a little bit more about them and how they got to where they are and what kind of happened to them. I genuinely loved this ebook. This was the first of the 3 that I read. And I am so happy that I read it, and it was such a good read. And if you have not read any of these books, read them. There's no spoilers in them at all. Just read them and you will understand a lot more about some of these characters. Like, I genuinely think everyone should read these a lot. Like, everyone should read them. Even though they're only available in ebook, I want everyone to read them. The second book I'm going to be reviewing is Hogwarts, an incomplete and unreliable guide, where you learn about the journey to Hogwarts, the Sorting Hat, the castle and grounds, lessons at Hogwarts, castle residence, and secrets of the castle. The one thing I absolutely loved the most was learning the history behind the Sorting Hat. The Sorting Hat was always something that intrigued me. Just the fact that it was something that could read and understand your mind to tell you which house would better suit you. And there was only ever 2 cases of hat stalling that ever occurred at Hogwarts, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, but hat stalling is when the Sorting Hat takes more than 5 minutes to decide what house you're going to be in. And I can't remember who the second person was, but one of the people this happened to was Professor McGonagall, where it took the Sorting Hat 5.5 minutes to decide if she belonged in Gryffindor or Ravenclaw, with it ending up her being Gryffindor and now the head of the Gryffindor house in present time. You learn a lot about the castle and just kind of, the building in general, the grounds and everything. You also, you learn about the King's Cross station and how the transportation between London and the school came to be, and how they were able to decide, what the transformation was going to be, because it had originally been everyone just heads to the school, but it changed to everyone having to take a bus because it's more conspicuous and it's not so out in the open to be taking a train, especially at the beginning of the school year to get to school, because, well, it's not a stereotype, but there probably are a lot of boarding schools in London, or at least the United Kingdom area. And you also learn a bit more about the different lessons at Hogwarts. You don't learn like the histories of them or anything like that, but you definitely learn more or less the importance of the lessons and, what stays the same throughout the years, what are the choices after certain years, and just what you can learn and what kind of ability you need to learn certain subjects, like being extremely talented in a few lessons and stuff like that. So more or less Hermione could take every single lesson and pass, probably. You also learn about the castle residents, so like the people, the creatures and stuff like that have lived in Hogwarts, and just a little history about it and everything. And I found that actually very interesting, just to see what some of the residents were like and just who lived there and what it was like to live there. And then finally you learn the secrets of the castle, and it's actually very, I know I say cool and interesting a lot, but I don't know, there's just something about the secrets of the castle that just kind of makes you want to keep it to yourself unless the person's read it. So I think I'm just going to do that and keep that bit of information to myself until you guys have read it. I honestly think you guys should read this because you learn more about the school itself than anything else, and I think that's an amazing idea, an amazing concept. And the final ebook I'm going to be reviewing is Short Stories from Hogwarts of Heroism, Hardship, and Dangerous Hobbies. This book, you only have 4 chapters and it focuses on 4 characters. One character that I'm going to talk about is Civilis Kettleborn. You never actually meet him in the books. You don't meet him in the movies. He is mentioned in the 3rd book when Hogwarts takes over his class, and I honestly can't remember. I think it's like creature care or something like that. Or you're learning about all of the creatures that exist, and you get hands-on experience with some of them, like Buckbeak and stuff like that. Buckbeak. Hippogriffs. Just say his name, why not? But like hippogriffs and stuff, and creatures and wondrous things like that, you learn more and you understand the creatures a lot better. Another teacher you learn about is Syllabi Trelawney, who is oh my god, I cannot remember any of these subjects at all. Divination, that's the class she teaches. She teaches divination because she is the great granddaughter of an original seer. And once in a while she does actually see pretty intense and powerful visions and prophecies in that, and sometimes it's more or less she's looking at people who are very easy to read and can kind of figure out something's bothering them and when they're going to find out that particular piece of news and stuff like that, which is something you learn about in the books and in the movies. Yeah, I mentioned that there are 4 characters. These are all professors. The next professor you learn about is Remus Lupin, who is one of my favorite Hogwarts professors. He taught the Defense Against the Dark Arts in the 3rd year, in Harry Potter's 3rd year. I find him to be really interesting and amazing because you learn about his past. You learn how he was bitten and how he's always been a caring and intelligent person. And you also learn about all the struggles he went through and everything he was terrified about, and how his friends found out that he was a werewolf. And you also learn a little bit more about werewolves and kind of the difference between what muggles think werewolves are and, you know, what werewolves actually are in the wizarding world. I absolutely loved learning more about Remus's past, because he was such a key character for Harry, because he helped Harry understand what happiness is and how you can just let it fill you up and just help you get through, you know, whatever situation you're in. And then you have everyone's favorite Transfiguration professor, Professor McGonagall, who I find is the most amazing woman and just amazing female character ever, because she's not only like one of the most impressive people ever, but everything she went through, her backstory is something that J.K. Rowling has had for ages and has kind of kept it to herself until she could release it at the right time. She was going to put it in the Harry Potter series, but then decided not to because it wasn't the right time. It didn't fit anywhere in the storyline. But now she has released it as one of her 3 ebooks, and it is so amazing. And I love the fact that we could learn more about Professor McGonagall, the kind, caring professor who is tough but fair and shows no favoritism whatsoever. She is very protective of Harry, but even though she is protective of him, she knows not to show too much. She doesn't show any favoritism to him, actually. It kind of hurts her whenever she has to take away points, but from Gryffindor, but she knows that in the long run he will learn, he will understand, and it will all be worth it. She's kind of teacher goals in general. Like, she's one of those teachers that you wish every teacher was like. She's kind, caring, understanding, very tough, but very fair. She doesn't have any ill will behind her decisions, and she, for the most part, is very neutral. Fun fact, she actually used to play Quidditch. Yeah, that's a small spoiler, but that was a pretty cool fact to learn while reading this ebook, that Professor McGonagall used to play Quidditch. That's pretty dang cool. So, after reviewing all three of these ebooks got 5 out of 5. It was a no-brainer when it came to rating these. I loved learning more about characters. I loved learning more about places. I loved the fact that J.K. Rowling released something that let us dive even further into the magical wizarding world that she had created over 20 years ago. I am so happy I finally got to read these ebooks, and I strongly recommend that everyone reads them as well. They are such a good read, and I strongly recommend it. Until next time, hit follow if you are on SoundCloud, and if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe. Also hit the like button if you are enjoying these podcasts, and until next time, happy reading.